I stood on the water's surface. It was very clear, transparent water. A shallow shoal no higher than one's ankles. I didn't feel any coldness. The sound of the waves whispered intermittently in my ears. I was holding the handlebars on the back of a wheelchair. Shogun. No, the real Nishijo Takumi's head, clad in a knit cap, was close before me. He sat in the wheelchair with his back hunched a little. There was nothing around us. Shells buried in the sand, for instance, or seabirds flying gracefully through the sky. I couldn't see anything of the sort. Life had no presence here. There was only the blue ocean and the absolutely clear sky. Land was flat, and no matter which way I faced, I couldn't look out across the horizon in every direction, 300 degrees around. This wasn't the real world. I heard Shogun's voice mingling with the sound of the breaking waves. From where I stood, I couldn't see what kind of look he had on his face. It was not a voice filled with any particular sense of lamentation. It was truly as though he had said it offhand. Tiny and covered in wrinkles and underweight, all of his hair had fallen out. Was this one of those illnesses known as premature aging? It was supposed to be a rare disease, one that affected only about 1 in every 8 million people. A certain gruesome spectacle engraved in my memory rose to the forefront. The antiparticles that form together with particles in pair production become sucked up in UD sword. 反粒子は数学的に言えば過去へ向かうものだから。ストックすればするほどギガロマニアックスには現在の状態とのズレが発生しやがてその矛盾により存在としての自己崩壊へ至る。Shogun didn't budge an inch in his wheelchair. I wondered what he was looking at. I wondered if he saw something, anything. 力を使えば使うほどこの病は進行しちゃうんだ。ギガロマニアックスの力で治せばいいじゃないか。力を使えば病は進行する。端的に言えば力を使ってもプラスマイナスゼロっていうことさ。何も変わらない。どうして僕みたいな肝タのヘタレ野郎を作ったの？もっと強くて行動的でかっこいいイケメンにすればよかったのに。人を一人、しかもギガロマニアックスの力を使える人間を生み出すのは簡単なことじゃなかった。君を生み出したことで1年近く昏睡しちゃったくらいだよ。
What?
僕は未完成だったってわけ。だからこそ、君はとても人間らしい。
That shouldn't be hereditary, however that's pronounced. Something like innate disease or organic disease would be better. Okay. Hereditary. Hereditary.
フォローしなくてもいい。
Yeah.
本心だよ。
I clicked my tongue. I didn't like this guy
リミ
after
には
all.
いつも力を使うなって怒られたよ。彼女は君を助けたいんでしょう。でも僕はリミの忠告に従うわけにはいかない。今の危機的状況は僕の IR2 がきっかけなんだから。
IR2. The particular doodle drawn on the reverse side of the essay.
IR2 はある科学者の手に留まり、やがてのぞみテクノロジー社によって研究が始められた。それがプロジェクトノア。
Finally.
言ってみれば人工的にギガロマニアックスの能力を発生させる装置。僕が計画に気づくことができたのはリミと出会ったからなんだ。彼女がひどい拷問を受けていたのはそのプロジェクトの一環だった。ノアのシステムを効率化するために必要だったのがコード3。ギガロマニアックスが力を使う過程で放出する特殊なノウハウのもの。それを手に入れるためにのぞみの社長ノロセはリミに過酷な拷問を加えた。
Ooh. Oh, poor Remy.
強烈な負の感情を抱くとき、ギガロマニアックスは力に覚醒し理想度を獲得するからね。
I again recalled what Senna had said.
バイオリズムの上昇によって中脳変影系ニューロンのドーパミンが過剰分泌されたとき、理想度は現れる。
When your biorhythms rise, leading to the excessive secretion of dopamine in the neurons of your midbrain limbic system, your desalt will appear. So the thing is, isn't the dopamine release more of a thing for when you're happy?
それは危機的な状況や興奮、悲しみ、憎しみ、笑いなど人それぞれだ。
Oh, okay. Sensation.
ドーパミン分泌量が多ければ、それだけ観測しやすくなる。
君が僕にちょっかいをかけてきたのもそのため。君を覚醒させるためにだ。ごめん。
It wasn't only me and Remy. Those who had been forced to awaken as gigalomaniacs because of the psychological or physical torture involved with Project Noah, they were Ayase, Senna, Kozupi, and even Nanami. They had been through horrific trials. Ayase, Senna, Kozupi, Nanami. I can see how the story could tie in with Ayase and her being in that mental hospital kind of thing. Senna, I don't know how that piece would connect. Kozupi, I don't know. Nanami, I don't know.
IR2 から生み出されたノア2は僕が自分の手で止めなくちゃならない。でも僕はこんな体だ。満足に動くこともできない。それに僕のコードサンプルを欲しがる望みから狙われるようにもなっちゃう。
Ah, yeah, Senna. Yeah, Senna. Yeah, I remember Senna. Yeah, but no, I remember now that you mentioned Chapter 9. Yeah. That was kind of, yeah. The place where he had been hospitalized was indeed AH Tokyo General Hospital. It had Hidden ties with the Nozomi group.
それに、僕のコードサンプルを欲しがる望みから狙われるようにもなっちゃって。だから、身を隠さなくちゃいけなかった。
幻の病室のアミーちゃんか。
あそこに入ってこられたのはリミだけだったよ。僕は身動きが取れなくなって、それで
僕を作ったのか。
Shogun gave a small nod.
リミには君を消すように何度も言われたんだ。命を削る行為だからやめろって。でも僕に残された命は長くない。力を使わなくたってあまり差はないんだよね。
His voice was very calm. He had the philosophical view of things possessed only by those whose deaths have been declared to them years before, perhaps.
それに君が覚醒して力を使えるようになれば僕の命はきっと保たないだろうから。
僕と君は一心同体っていうこと？
そうだね。
でも、一つだけ約束。もう妄想はしない。ね。タクの妄想力はとっても強いから。妄想をすればするほど、本物のあなたの命が削られていっちゃうんだ。
Oh, what? If I were to keep my promise to Rimi, I couldn't go save her. Even if I went, they'd turn the tables on me and I wouldn't be able to accomplish anything.
君の命はあとどれぐらい持つ？
きっと今日か明日までじゃないかな。
そこまで。
The time left to him was so much shorter than I'd expected. It stunned me.
僕が覚醒しちゃったから。
気にしなくていいよ。君の覚醒は僕にとって本望だから。
君が死んだら僕はどうなる？
君は僕と一心同体であると同時にリアルブートされたことによって現実の人間になった。生まれ方は特殊かもしれないけど君は人間だよ。
僕が消えれば君は助かるの？
無駄だよ。せいぜい寿命が数日から数週間伸びるぐらいじゃないかな。でもそんな愚かな選択肢を選ぶのはやめるんだ。君にはノア2を破壊してほしい。そのために力を使うことを遠慮しないでほしい。
言われなくても分かってる。君に遠慮するほど僕はお人よしじゃない。
Shogun laughed and his shoulders shaking faintly. It kind of offended me since I hadn't meant to be funny.
君が目覚めてくれて勝手な話で迷惑かもしれないけど、あと君に託す。
The sensation of the wheelchair handlebars I was holding abruptly vanished. At some point, the wheelchair in which he sat had moved away from me on its own, progressing forward as though gliding atop the water. Its two wheels cut through the water, forming ripples. I had no intention of chasing after him. I hastily saw him off.
僕の役目は終わった。
勝手だね。僕に丸投げ。
少し疲れちゃって。眠らせてよ。
In his wheelchair, he turned back toward me. As usual, I couldn't read his expression, but his voice was urgent.
時間がない。急いで。ノロセはノア2を本格的に稼働させた。こうなったら ノア2を直接破壊するしかないんだ。頼んだよ。
And his figure disappeared, as though enveloped by mist. The very cause of his psychologically generated world began to slowly fade away.
君に頼まれる筋合いなんてない。僕自身が決めたことをやるだけ。
The sound of the waves retreated into the distance. As dreaming had once done in the past, I burned the endlessly clear sky into my memory, then quietly closed my eyes. The grave voice of a newscaster reading up the news could be heard through the radio.
現在までに確認された死傷者の数は233人ですが、この数は最終的に3万人を超えるとみられ、気象庁の発表によりますと、今回の地震の規模は震度7、マグニチュードは 7.8 と関東大震災に匹敵する規模です。渋谷では建物の一部が倒壊し、大規模な陥没も発生している模様です。首都高渋谷線が高架の倒壊により全線通行止め。公共交通機関では山手線など全線。
Radio noise began to mingle with the newscaster's voice, and at last she stopped saying anything.
ダメだわ。また聞こえなくなった。
After taking the musty old portable radio in her hand, clenching it, tapping it, and so forth, Momasa let out an enormous sigh.
古いから使い物にならないわね。
Forcing a rueful smile, she looked to one side. There walked Kishimoto Ayase and Kusunoki Yuwa, both wearing expressions of exhaustion. Both Ayase and Yua's school uniforms were completely soiled with dirt, making it readily apparent how much they had struggled to walk this far. However, the giant swords, these swords, each of them contained not a speck of dust, and their grim glow remained completely unclouded. After the earthquake took place, Yua and Ayase had returned to Shibuya from Roppongi on foot. And by going even further, to the Frisia office, they were able to join up with Momase. Expecting the missing band to come back, the three of them spent the night near the office, in a mixed-use building which tilted from the earthquake and which had looked ready to topple over any minute now. But in the end, Ban hadn't shown himself. Momase proposed leaving Shibuya, but Ayase disagreed.
グラジオールが目覚めたのよ。早く他の黒騎士と合流しないと。
She asserted, tugging forcefully at Yua's hand and heading off toward the wreckage-swamped central district of Shibuya. Yua and Momase were left with no other option but to go along with her. 7 in the morning. Less than an hour had passed since the brightening of the sky. There was absolutely nothing in the way of refreshing morning air. The wretched state had been hidden by the darkness of night grew the wretched state that had been hidden by the darkness of night grew gradually more and more visible together with the arrival of the sun. Now they were right in the thick of it. The neighborhood of Shibuya had transformed into a vision of hell. The roadways were broken to pieces with their asphalt projecting up. A number of buildings had collapsed and the sides of the streets were buried in fallen wreckage. Everything made of glass had cracked, and even a huge sign originally found on the roof of a building had fallen and was lying down there. Walk forward a little and they would come across corpses left strewn about every which way. It pained Momase every time she saw those bodies, and she would mentally press her hands together in their name. But there were so many of them that midway through, she made up her mind not to think about it. Otherwise, Her own heart wouldn't last much longer. People they occasionally passed were expressionless and appeared to be wandering around on heavy feet without hesitation. Several men cooperated in an effort to rescue those buried alive in the wreckage, but there was little they could do without heavy machinery. Momasa looked again at the thing Yua had in her hand. A D-sword. Ayase had explained it to them. A sword one could draw, as if by magic, out of nothingness. Ben had been telling the truth. Yua seemed startled and bewildered by the fact that she'd obtained one of those swords.
ねえ岸本さん、
Ayase, walking ahead, didn't look back when Momasa called to her. Her expression was tinged with impatience.
このディソードを持つ人はあなたたちを含めて全部で7人いるっていうこと？
そうよ。
他の人たちがどこにいるのかわかるの？
わからないわ。
だったら
感じるのよ。意志を。こっちで間違いないわ。
Ayase was an impenetrable fortress. Helpless Momasa repeated the same words for the nth time.
今むやみに歩き回るのは危ないわ。ひとまず安全なところに避難するべきよ。
ダメよ。時間がないの。
There's no time.
もしかしたら他の黒騎士だったかしら。その人たちだって避難場所にいるかもしれないでしょ。
そうですよ、岸本さん。私も避難場所に行くべきだと。
Ayase came to an abrupt halt as if Yua's argument in support of it had taken effect. She narrowed her eyes. The ravaged street of Dogan Hill, which cars could no longer drive along, she cast her eyes beyond it.
いた。
え？いたって何が？
At the end of Ayase's line of sight was the figure of a lone girl walking toward them from the station. Finally, we get a sign of life of Nanami. She wore a Silver Academy uniform, but it was even more tattered than Ayase's and Yua's, and she embraced a massive cross-shaped sword to her chest with her left hand alone. The footsteps were uncertain, and she seemed about to collapse at any moment.
大変！
Do you still believe you did nothing wrong? Her body jiggling as she went, Momasa ran up to that girl, to Nishijo Nanami. She was concerned about the D-sword Nanami bore up, but for now she had set aside the prospect of inquiring after it and instead supported Nanami's small-statured form.
大丈夫？よく頑張ったわね。今病院に連れて行ってあげるから気をしっかり持つのよ。
As Momasa spoke encouragingly, Nanami turned vague eyes in her direction. Bagel.
なんて言ったの？
That damn bangle.
バングル。どこ？
You and Ayase came dashing up to Nanami's a little after
こ
Momasa.
の子、西条くんの妹さんです。そう、黒騎士の資格があるのもうなずけるわ。匠の妹なら。
二人ともこの子を運ぶのを手伝って。なんとか病院に連れて行かないと。
痛い。
Nanami moaned in pain.
右手？
Momasa, taken an offhand glance at Nanami's right hand, sucked in her breath.
ってひどい。こんな。
What? You and Isaac couldn't comprehend why Mamasa was so shaken up. There was a blood-stained bandage around Nanami's right hand, but it didn't seem to be such a dreadful injury. But in Mamasa's eyes, Nanami's arm appeared as having been hacked in to at her bandaged wrist. She had undergone some treatment, but the wound was still open. Isaac, blank-faced, tried to grasp the fingers of Nanami's right hand, but her extended hand slipped clean through it without holding onto anything. Like a hologram, Nanami's fingers had no actual substance. A single drop of blood dripped from the crimson-stained bandage into Ayasa's hand.
妄想。リミさんに助けてもらって。リミさんって崎畑リミさん？
知ってるの？
ええ、西条くんのお友達の。
As she had always thought of Takumi himself as being the true perpetrator behind the new Gen incidents, Yua had investigated his affairs in considerable detail. Naturally, she also looked into Nishijo Nanami and Seki Hatarimi, as they were people who made frequent contact with him. On the other hand, Aisa's usual cool expression grew minutely more severe when she heard Rimi's name.
崎畑リミも7人の黒騎士の一人よ。
I'm not returning to the Wiccan sense.
そうなんですか？
Aisa recollected what had happened at the hospital yesterday. The apologetic voice with which Rimi had addressed her came back to life.
岸本さん、タクに近づかないで。目覚めさせたくないの。君には自覚がないの。黒騎士の一人としての。私が一人で何とかするから。とても美しいわ、その思いは。でもそれは、大いなる意志の望むことじゃない。私も、望んでいないわ。あなた一人に全てを背負わせるなんて。
黒騎士云々の話は今は置いときましょう。とにかく早く病院に連れて行かないと血が止まらないわ。
Masa gently laid the handkerchief she carried with her against Nanami's wound.
すごい熱だし顔色も悪い。急がないと。
お兄に会いたいよ。
A single tear streamed from Nanami's empty eyes. A second later, it happened without warning. Suddenly, the street where Mamasa was standing caved in with a roar. As they lost a place to stand, Mamasa and the four others began free-falling, pulled down by gravity, as though they were plummeting toward the darkness of a bottomless abyss. As that hallucination overcame her, Mamasa forgot her age and screamed. When I came to, there were thick clouds overhead. At some point, day had dawned. But I couldn't see a blue sky anywhere. It seemed dispiriting, an oppressive sky. Far away rang the noisy sirens of a number of ambulances and fire trucks. The shapes of helicopters circling high in the air came flying into my field of sight. There were an awful lot of them swooping around, almost like a a swarm of flies. My heart throbbed. Like road construction was being carried out inside my skull. It was a more severe pain than what I'd felt during the previous earthquake. I attempted to recall what had happened immediately before my memories died out. The whiteness of the sky. The words Shogun had shouted, the third melt. If that's not a reference to the third impact, I don't know. Tolerating my headache, I aroused my body and was dumbstruck. I don't know, it seems like a reference to the third impact of Eva, so I'm just... The scenery I knew so well was gone. It was similar to the imagined spectacles of Y2K that had been all the rage about a decade ago. Shibuya had collapsed. Traffic lights, roadside trees, a number of buildings all lay fallen. The famous Jumbotron monitors around the pedestrian scramble were cracked and silent. The roof of the stairs descending to the subway had caved in, burying the entrance. The Yamanote Line's overhead railway had come crashing down and the rails on the tracks had snapped. To snap rails on the tracks, that must have been, I don't know, or for that to happen, must have had a lot of energy. That impact. And many people lay everywhere. Blood and scraps of flesh clung to the wreckage. People who didn't so much as twitch. People who moaned agonizingly. People who screamed help at the top of their lungs. People covered in dust who crawled around with their entire bodies pure white. People who held those lying unmoving and wept. The smell of blood, and the smell like something burning. The smell of dust hovered in the air. Somewhere distant, several plumes of black smoke rose like signal fires. Hubert. Hoovered in the air. Hovered, whatever. This was the might of Noah too. I had chills. There was nothing to separate it from a weapon of mass destruction. I finally had a real sense of why Shogun had been so desperate to stop it. Speaking of which, what had become of Shogun? Coming back to myself, I looked around. A twisted wheelchair had toppled over close beside me. Next to it lay his small body. Hastily dashing over, I pulled him up in my arms. He didn't react when I called to him. I couldn't hear his inner voice either. Surely he wasn't dead? I put my ear close to his mouth. He was breathing, albeit faintly, but he wasn't conscious. I tried lightly swatting him in the face and such, but he wouldn't wake up. Without knowing that, I couldn't so much as go rescue Rimi and Nanami. I should have asked Shogun beforehand. Clicking my tongue in irritation, I took my cell phone out of my pocket, but it was out of power and remained unresponsive no matter how much I fiddled with it. It wouldn't do me any good. Was there anyone besides Shogun who seemed likely to know? Think about it, you've got to think. You don't have time to dawdle. While you fought like this, that Noriso guy might kill the captive Rimi on a whim. Who? Someone who would probably become my ally. And who was well versed when it came to Noah too.
君たちは特別な存在だ。
So he's gonna go after Senna's father?
中でも一番特別なのは、その目、誰の目を産み落とした少年。
畑野一世。
Senna's father, one of the initial members of Project Noah. His whereabouts were currently unknown. I'd never met him. I might have had a near miss. According to gossip, he appeared here and there in Shibuya looking for like a homeless
見
person.
つけるしかない。
I picked up Shogun's startlingly light body, carrying him on my back, and began cautiously walking through the ruins. I had no idea where Hatano was. Even so, all I could do for now was look for him. However light Shogun might have been, he was still around 20 kilograms. I didn't have the stamina to walk around Shibuya carrying him, especially not with the roads so jagged and uneven. Anyhow, there were no prior instances of me having gotten any proper exercise, since sitting in front of my PC was my daily routine. I thought I ought to take Shogun to the hospital, but with Shibuya in this state, I doubted I'd be able to call up an ambulance. It wore me out just to climb the slight rise of Dogen Hill. I ran out of breath, and huge amounts of sweat came pouring out all over me. Wiping the sweat off my forehead, I paused to collect my breathing.
砂をかめ砂をかめ小宿すような苦しみを帯びてこう描く針の跡はうつろ快楽に変え今天を仰いだ来たるべき世の罪を断ち悲観者の歌が報われたらハレルヤ主を賛美たまえ
Then someone's faint voice came into my hearing. It was very lonely, but by no means on the brink of despair. A singing voice that comforted me as I listened to it. I had heard this singing voice before. At this time, it had come from atop a concert stage in the midst of excessive lighting that stimulated my sight, and deafening sounds that seemed to shake the tight-closed space itself. I had heard her. But now, in the middle of the road, absent any human presence, in the midst of this fallen city governed by death, I heard her.
Ayase.
Ayase. A contract of blood to seal our sin. Laying Shogun down where I stood, I surveyed the area, but in terms of human forms, all I could see were a number of corpses lying prone. Doing my best not to look at them, I searched for Ayase. Where on earth had I heard her singing from? In front of me was a caved-in street. A huge hole opened its jaws there. If I remembered right, the subway ran beneath this road. While thinking to myself that it couldn't be, I tentatively looked down from the edge of the hole. It was about 5 meters deep. A vast amount of small debris had piled up inside. Ayase lay fallen there.
匠
今助けるよ。
I hastily jumped down the hole. I messed up my landing and pretty much fell head over heels down into the wreckage. Ace's leg was pinned in place by a huge chunk of concrete, and she couldn't move. She tried to somehow get it off her, but it was heavy and would be impossible to take care of alone. And let's hope that leg isn't broken.
私だけじゃない。他に3人いるわ。君の妹も。
ナナミが。
Why was she here? Wasn't she supposed to have been captured by that man called Norase?
ナナミ！ナナミ！
Repressing my bodily pain, I got up and tried shouting, but no answer came. When I looked around, in addition to Ayase, I saw a stout woman lying prostrate on her stomach. She wasn't moving, but she didn't seem to have any external injuries, so she'd probably just lost consciousness. I spotted neither Nanami or the remaining person. It was possible they'd been buried alive. I had to do something fast. I took a glance up the hole. Dust flew around, enough to send me into a coughing fit. Beyond it was a circular cutout of the sky. I thought of Shogun lying there. I'd laid him on the road. I thought back about Rimi's words.
妄想をすればするほど、本物のあなたの命が削られていっちゃうんだ。
But I couldn't let myself hesitate. I pulled my D-sword out of invisible space. I sat next to Ayase, looking into her face in such a way as to avoid seeing her leg. I gazed only at her eyes. That was enough.
妄想するんだ。
Powerfully.
綾瀬の足の上にある瓦礫は大きなものじゃない。数は多いけど一つ一つは小さい。重くない。簡単に足を引っ張り出せる。他の二人も助け出せる。
Ayase and I, if we two gigalomaniacs achieved shared recognition of that delusion, the delusion should become reality of its own accord. Suddenly, Ayase smiled in what seemed like relief. Her fingers gently stroked me on the cheek.
グラジオールの導きね。君がここに来てくれたのは。
I blinked and warily raised my face. An enormous chunk of concrete on top of Ayase's leg had transformed into a bunch of tiny debris, just like in our delusion. Once we moved some of it out the way, Ayase could withdraw her leg. I certainly hadn't dreamt of it. I certainly hadn't dreamed it would go this well. Pushing herself up, she rubbed her ankle. Luckily, she didn't appear to have any major injuries.
綾瀬の歌が聞こえたんだ。それに導かれたんだよ。
そう。よかった。歌い続けてきて。
As I lent Ayase a hand to help her stand up, I surveyed the area.
ナナミは
As before, I didn't see my little sister anywhere. Had her delusion failed? Or else was Nanami already... I grew anxious. I heard a voice. When I looked in the direction it had come from, I discovered a hand extending from the ruins. I seized that hand, its slender fingers, and peeked in through the ensuing gap.
あ
A tunnel-like crevice. Buried alive at the bottom of it was a familiar-looking, glasses-wearing girl. It seemed like a long while had passed since the last time I'd seen Yua.
なぜか急にこの隙間ができて、ついさっきまで全く身動きが取れなかったんですけど。
She said apologetically, averting her eyes
手
from
を
me.
しっかり掴んでて。
I gripped Yua's hand tighter and pulled as hard as I could in hope of dragging her out through the crevice. Ayase helped as well. When the two of us pulled at Yua's hand with all our strength, she escaped the wreckage rather speedily.
ありがとう、ござい。
All her body was covered with dust. Bits of concrete were stuck to her long hair. But Yua didn't seem to be injured either. That left only Nanami. Leaving Yua to Ayase, I searched for Nanami. Considering the fact that Yua had been able to work herself free, my delusion must have taken effect well. If so, it should be possible to rescue Nanami from crevice or something like Yua. As expected, while I looked around in a number of wreckage heaps, I saw Nanami's face in one of the cracks there.
ナナミ
I called to her, but Nanami didn't react. She appeared to be unconscious. I reached out to a hand to touch Nanami's shoulder and momentarily hesitated. The form of the Nanami who had turned to particles yesterday and dissolved before my eyes flitted across the back of my brain. No, this Nanami had to be the real Nanami. I took the plunge and grabbed Nanami's shoulder, her blouse. I succeeded in distinctly touching her. Her warmth was there. I pulled her out with all my strength in the same manner as I had done with Yua. Unlike Ayase and Yua, Nanami wore bloodied clothes. Her arm in particular was pure red. For the time being, I laid her on her back and checked her breathing. It sounded painful, but she let out slight exhalations.
よかった。
At this point, I was most worried about the condition of her blood-drenched right hand. When I tried to hold it to examine it, my own hand passed through it. A delusionary hand? Nanami's right hand had really had
ご
been...
めん。ごめん。巻き込んで。
Oof. Groans spilled forth from Nanami's mouth, her dust-coated face, when I softly brushed her on the cheek. Nanami's eyelids slitted open. Her line of sight wandered for a bit before her eyes took hold of me.
ナナミ。
That instant, Nanami's expression crumpled, contorting. Great big tears overflowed from her. She clutched hard at my hand with her left hand. She murmured as if to cling to me.
ナナミの本当のお兄は僕じゃないよ。
僕じゃないよ. But I shook my hand a little. Okay. Your brother isn't me. Her memories were muddled. Nishiro Nanami sensed it. Her brother's words served as the trigger, heralding in Nanami's heart the sensation that she had two brothers. Wow. Not it seemed like she had to. She had to. She had flashbacks to the faces of her two brothers. One was pathetic seeming. One was all wrinkly. On the other hand, she was positive she had only one sibling. Memories and what she recognized, they weren't matching up. What had been reality? What had been an illusion? Unknowing, she became frightened. And as she tried to make the inside of her head go blank, suddenly she heard her own voice coming to her like tiny ripples on water. Nana, you've got to keep yourself together. Before she knew it, Nanami was standing in the hallway that shone with the light of sunset. The scent of disinfectants pricked at her nose. In front of her was a plain-looking door. Nanami was holding its handle, and without her will having any bearing on it, Rand opened the door.
ああ、お兄、またご飯食べないつもり？ちゃんと食べてっていつも言ってるじゃん。出ないと元気になんないよ。あ、もしかしてグリーンピースが入ってるから？子供じゃないんだし、いい加減好き嫌いやめたら？そりゃナナだってグリーンピース嫌いだから残したくなる気持ちはわかるけど、ちゃんと食べてくんないとナナが怒られるんだからね。あの怖い看護師長さんに。
ナナミ。
何？
今まで辛く当たってごめん。
ん？お兄が謝るなんて珍しいじゃん。
もう僕のために無理をする必要はないんだ。何言ってるの？ 僕は身を隠さなくちゃならなくなった。
Okay.
だからお前はもうここには来なくていい。
何のつもり？
さようなら。
Sayonara? The memories became cut off here. The fact that she had a real brother, the fact that she poured her heart into nursing her severely ill older brother for years, the fact that she'd gone on straining herself, thinking that she had to hang in there and be dependable to take care of him. Up until this very moment, for a whole year and a half, all those things had completely slipped out of her memory. Those memories were made never have been there in the first place. And in their exchange, her brother was healthy, living on his own in Shibuya. Her mother had requested that she go check on how he was doing periodically, and once in a while, on the way from home to school, she'd stop by his room. She'd made herself think it was a perfectly ordinary custom of theirs, a continuation of the past, and that she did it because they were a family. She hadn't experienced any doubts
どう
whatsoever.
してナナは忘れちゃってたんだろう。
30 minutes after she was rescued from being buried alive, Nanami finally reunited with her real brother. She was lying on the road. He was lying on the road. He was breathing, but he wasn't conscious. As always, he was wrinkly and small and all dried up, and looked very feeble. This was the brother Nanami had always known from long ago.
こんなのひどいよ。
Wow.
ナナはお兄に文句ばっかり言ってたけど
Spilled tears as she clung to her brother's diminutive numb body.
お兄のこと一度だって 忘れたいなんて思ったことなかったのに。勝手だよ。わがまますぎだよ。
Sound like the scraping of metal came from her brother's clothing. Something went slipping out of his breast pocket.
あ、
Well, it was what Nanami had been looking for all along. Something that had left her when she lost her right hand. A cheapish bangle with a pattern of snow crystals. Bewildered, she stared at her true brother's face, but his wrinkle-covered eyes remained shut. Nanami picked the bracelet up with her left hand. It felt familiar to the touch. First present she had ever received from her brother. It was her treasure. That damn bangle. Nanami lifted her gaze, unconsciously seeking out the figure of her other brother. He had his back to her, a long sword in his hand. He was walking away, he was leaving this place. Nanami understood that intuitively. Finally, we get to see his face once more. His ever so popular face. She became forlorn at the thought that maybe he meant to leave without saying anything to her.
行っておいで。
Knitting her eyebrows, Nanami took a quick glance around. He actually is kind of decent looking, yeah.
今、声が。
It was the voice of the brother in her memory. A voice reaching her heart from he who should have been unconscious.
彼は僕と一心同体。もう一人のお兄なんだから。
Nanami didn't know if it was a voice her brother had emitted or else merely an auditory hallucination. But even then,
うん、わかった。
she said to her brother, lying prone. Rising, Nanami walked up toward her brother's back. But he couldn't muster any strength. For days she'd been pinned up to an eerie object yard. In a pitch-black room, forced to experience horrific suffering. She had no idea how many times she'd thought of dying, the right hand especially. Powerful pain in it had continued incessantly. Like there was a huge flea stuffed in her bone, gnawing it down. The sensation that she didn't have a hand, and the hallucination that she did mix and collided, almost driving her crazy. You can even see it here, like her hands missing. She was exhausted both mentally and physically. If she let her guard down, she'd crouch right where she stood, and rendered unable to take another step forward. Which was why Nanami had to fight desperately to keep stretching out her hand. She wanted to hold her brother so much to the point of putting in such an effort.
待って。
Once she just barely managed to squeeze her voice, he noticed He stopped and turned back in her direction. She'd succeeded in stopping him, but Nanami was torn about how to address him. The reality that this person wasn't her brother, the conviction that this person wasn't her brother, those two feelings had become hopelessly entangled. And she couldn't put her emotion in order to a moment's notice. Okay. The conviction that this person was her brother. Bangles she held in her left hand. Though cold to the touch, it was a gift from him, and it warmed her heart. She knows that he isn't her real brother, but she feels as if he was. That's important. Thank you for pointing that out. She felt like this bangle's existence tied the two of them together. She was fine with that being the sole answer. Her confusion soon vanished.
お兄は本当のお兄じゃないかもしれないけど、頼りにならなくておたくさんで、アニメキャラもお人形さんばっかり集めてて、口が悪くて愛想もなくて、意地悪なことばっかり言うけど、お兄もナナのお兄だよ。
Struggling to keep herself from crying, Nanami spilled with all her might. Smiled. Or did I say spilled? Nanami smiled with all her might.
ありがとう、ナナミ。
Her older brother showed her a bashful expression. The instant she felt relief, Nanami's consciousness began gradually receding into the distance. As Nanami staggered and seemed about to topple over, I hastily caught her. She'd gone unconscious. Her face was as white as a sheet. Her breathing, too, sounded painful. Her breathing.
早く病院に運ばないと、このままじゃ危ないわ。
At this rate, she'd be in danger. Said the plump woman who had introduced herself as Mamase, looking over into Nanami's face and speaking gravely. Next, she turned her eyes on Shogun.
そっちに寝かせてる子もね。
I entrusted Nanami to Mamase-san.
二人を頼みます。
あなたはどうするの？
探さなくちゃいけない人がいて。
Noah to's location. I tried asking Nanami, but she told me she wasn't sure where she'd been held captive. The only thing I could do was search for the person called Hataro, after all.
必要なことなのね。グラジオールを倒すために。
グラジオールか。
If you were to rephrase it as Noah too.
うん。そうだよ。
As his expression went tight. She took a step closer to me, dragging one of her legs slightly. It seemed as though she really were wounded.
一緒に行くわ。私も。
その必要はないよ。
Even after I told her so, Ayase shook her head in refusal.
7人集まらないと。
All 7 must gather, said the prophetess.
綾瀬も、それに、岩も、畑野っていう人を探してほしい。
Hatano. When I voiced Yua's name, I saw the very girl in question who had been shrinking back behind Mama's-san jump a little, her shoulders trembling.
その人が、ノア2の場所、知ってるから。
Because he knows we're nowhere
一緒
to
に行動しなくても、僕はみんなの見聞きしたことがわかる。だから、今は手分けして探して。
For the moment, I thought it was the best possible strategy. We had to hurry. There was no guaranteeing our safety if another earthquake took place.
Wakata.
Asa said, though she lowered her eyes regrettably.
なんだかよくわからないけど、
野呂瀬源一が、すべての黒幕です。
そういうこと。それなら、妹さんたちのことは、私に任せなさいな。
Moses-san thrust out her chest and nodded as though to encourage me.
ただし、無茶しちゃダメよ。それと一つ頼まれてほしいんだけど。ばんちゃん、ヘラヘラ笑ってるうさんくさそうな中年刑事を見たら、私に連絡するように伝えてくれる？
Was she talking about Yasuji-ban? I knew that he died, shot to death by his partner, because I'd unconsciously witnessed the moment it happened. I was about to convey this to Momose-san, but
まったく。あの人はこんな時にどこをほっつき歩いてるんだか。ま、案外どこかで怪我人を助けてるのかもしれないけどね。
since Momose-san said such things, I found myself unable to tell her.
というわけでよろしく。
はい。
I nodded without meaning to. I promised that it was 100% impossible to fulfill. But I couldn't think of how else to answer her.
西条くん。
You had lowered, spoke in a voice as weak as a fly's rasping. I'd noticed that she'd been peeping timidly at me for a while now, looking as if she were about to say something.
あなたのこと疑ってごめんなさい。
あ、
私、西条くんを傷つけるようなこと言って。
The lenses of her glasses considerably soiled with dust. Behind them, her eyes were surely wet with tears.
謝っても許してもらえるとは思ってないです。 それでも謝らせてください。ごめんなさい。
She bowed deeply to me. I turned my back on her without saying anything.
僕のベースにあるセーラのフィギュア、
はい。
よかったらもらってくれる？
Okay.
あ、
It'd been a shock when she received me, but now I understood her circumstances. Which was why I said something like, I forgive you. I'd start to see myself conversely as being presumptuous. I thought Yua was my enemy all along. I didn't possess the right to have her lower her head to me, or to forgive her.
もらってほしい。
Okay. He's passing his figures over to... Seiwatan figures over to... Yua?
はい。また一緒にフィギュア買いに行きましょうね。
At least it returned to Yua, a gentle smile like the one she'd worn when we met for the first time. I nodded at her words. I exchanged wordless looks with Ayase and Momose-san as well. I seared the image of Nanami and Shogun into my eyes one last time. I began walking alone through the mountain of rubble.